Norse paganism. Before the Vikings ever set sail, Norse paganism had already shaped the spirit of Scandinavia. This ancient belief system, also called Old Norse religion or heathenry, was polytheistic, animistic, and deeply connected to the cycles of nature. It centered around gods like Odin, the wise Allfather, Thor, the thunder-wielding protector, and Freya, the goddess of love, war, and magic. The cosmos was divided into 9 realms, all held together by Yggdrasil, the world tree. Fate was governed by the Norns, and the afterlife was not a single place. Warriors who died honorably might go to Valhalla, while others joined Freya in Folkvanger or the mysterious halls of hell. Rituals involved offerings called blots, held in sacred groves or at altars, where animals or mead might be given to the gods. Norse pagans also practiced Scyther, a type of magic or divination often associated with women and the goddess Freya. This was not a religion of obedience, it was a code of honor, bravery, and kinship. Even in death, Norse pagans believed the story wasn't over. Ragnarok, the great end times battle, would bring destruction and rebirth. Though suppressed by Christianization, Norse paganism still exists today in modern heathen movements, literature, and popular culture. Animistic paganism. Animism is one of the oldest spiritual worldviews on Earth. At its core is a powerful belief that everything in nature has a spirit. Not just humans or animals, but trees, rivers, mountains, stones, even the wind and fire. Everything is alive. In animistic traditions, there's no hard line between the physical and the spiritual. A forest isn't just trees, it's a living presence. A storm isn't just weather, it's the voice of a spirit. This belief system sees the world as sacred, full of invisible forces that must be respected. Across many indigenous cultures, from Africa to the Americas, from Asia to Oceania, animism shapes rituals, taboos, and daily life. People offer food or gifts to the spirits of the land, speak to their ancestors, and seek harmony with the world around them. There's no single god or book because the divine is everywhere. In a way, animistic paganism reminds us that the earth isn't just a place we live in, it's a being we live with. Canaanite paganism. Long before the rise of Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, the ancient land of Canaan, modern-day Lebanon, Israel, Palestine, and parts of Syria was home to a rich and powerful pagan tradition. Canaanite religion was polytheistic, full of gods tied to nature, war, storms, fertility, and the underworld. At the top was El, the father of the gods. His son Baal was the storm god, loud, fierce, and often clashing with Mot, the god of death. Then there was Asherah, the great mother goddess and consort of El, worshipped through sacred trees and poles called Asherah poles. This religion was deeply connected to the cycles of nature, especially the seasons of drought and rain. Baal's annual battle with Mot symbolized the land's death and rebirth. Rituals included offerings of food, incense, and animals. Temples were built in places like Ugarit and Byblos, where priests and priestesses served the god. Some rites were intense, even involving ecstatic dances or symbolic bloodletting. Though later demonized by neighboring religions, Canaanite spirituality gave rise to myths, symbols, and stories that still exist today. Even the name Baal made its way into the Bible, but not always in a flattering way. Canaanite paganism was a raw, ancient system tied to survival, seasons, and cosmic struggle, a forgotten root of Middle Eastern mysticism. Baltic paganism comes from the ancient peoples of what is now Latvia, Lithuania, and parts of Estonia. It's one of the oldest and most well-preserved pagan traditions in Europe, and surprisingly, it survived way longer than most, holding strong even into the Middle Ages. At the center of Baltic belief is nature. The forests, rivers, and skies are full of divine energy. The main god is Dievas, the sky father. Then there's Perkunas, the thunder god, similar to Thor, and Lima, the goddess of fate and fortune. These gods weren't far off. They were part of everyday life. People honored spirits of their ancestors, land, home, and hearth. Every field, hill, or tree might have its own guardian spirit, called Vales. Respecting them meant good harvests, health, and peace. Rituals were done outdoors, around sacred groves, stones, and fire. Music, chanting, and circle dances were all part of the ceremonies. The Wheel of the Year was important too, with seasonal festivals tied to farming, fertility, and the balance between light and dark. Even today, in places like Lithuania, some of these old traditions are coming back, revived under the name Romuva. Sumerian paganism. The Sumerians built one of the world's first civilizations, and with it, one of the oldest known pagan religions. Their gods weren't just symbols, they were forces of nature, rulers of cities, and keepers of cosmic law. At the top was Anu, god of the heavens. Then came Enlil, god of wind and storms, and Enki, god of water, magic, and creation. There was also Inanna, goddess of love, war, and the underworld. She was fierce, complex, and worshipped in grand temples with music, incense, and sacred rites. The Sumerians believed the gods created humans from clay, not to be loved, but to serve. Keeping the gods happy meant keeping the world in balance. They built towering temples called ziggurats, where priests offered food, drink, and praise. They also believed in fate, written on divine tablets, and that everything, life, death, harvest, flowed from the gods' decisions. Myths told of gods fighting, falling in love, or descending into the underworld. One famous tale is Inanna's journey to the realm of the dead, a powerful story of loss, resurrection, and transformation. Though their cities crumbled, Sumerian beliefs flowed into later cultures, Babylonian, Assyrian, and beyond, shaping how we think about gods, law, and the soul even today. Tengrism is the ancient shamanic belief system of the Turkic and Mongolic peoples, stretching across Central Asia from the steppes of Mongolia to the mountains of Kazakhstan. It's not about temples or scriptures, but about living in balance with nature, ancestors, and the sky itself. At the center of Tengrism is Tengri, the eternal blue sky, seen not just as a god but as a divine force watching over everything. Tengri isn't alone though. There's Ege, the Earth Mother, and spirits that live in rivers, mountains, animals, and even the wind. This belief is deeply tied to nature and the cycle of life. People would honor their ancestors, offer food to the spirits of the land, and call on shamans or kam to guide the community, heal sickness, and journey into the spirit world. Tengrism teaches that everything is connected and that the harmony between heaven, earth, and humans must be respected. Violating that harmony, like disrespecting nature or forgetting your ancestors, could bring misfortune. It's not a religion of fear, but of responsibility, courage, and balance. Even today, in parts of Mongolia and Siberia, Tengrism is alive. Kemetic Paganism. Kemetic Paganism is the ancient religion of Egypt, a world of gods, sacred symbols, and cosmic order that lasted over 3,000 years. The people of Kemet, the name they used for Egypt, didn't separate daily life from the divine. Everything they did, from farming to burial, was tied to the gods. At the heart of this belief system is Ma'at, the cosmic balance, truth, and justice that keeps the universe from falling into chaos. Every act, every ritual had to honor Ma'at. The gods were many. Ra, the sun god, sailed across the sky each day and battled darkness each night. Osiris, god of the dead, ruled the afterlife, while his wife, Isis, was the goddess of magic and healing. Horus, the falcon god, represented kingship, and Anubis, the jackal-headed god, watched over the dead. Temples were sacred spaces, not just for worship, but where priests performed daily rituals to feed and care for the gods' statues. People also prayed at home, offering bread, beer, and incense. Death wasn't the end. If your heart was light with truth, you could pass into the afterlife, guided by spells from the Book of the Dead, and live forever among the blessed. Oceanic Paganism. Oceanic paganism comes from the islands of the Pacific, places like Hawaii, Polynesia, Micronesia, and Melanesia, where spirituality flows with the tides, the land, and the sky. These traditions are deeply rooted in nature, ancestors, and the sacred energy known as mana. In many oceanic cultures, mana is a spiritual force found in people, places, and objects. Chiefs, warriors, or sacred sites could hold great mana, and it had to be respected or it could bring serious consequences. The gods and spirits vary from island to island. In Hawaii, there's Pele, goddess of volcanoes, powerful and unpredictable. In Polynesia, there's Tangaroa, god of the sea, and Tane, god of forests and life. These deities are not distant. They're part of everyday life, connected to the ocean, the storms, the stars. Rituals often involve chants, dance, and offerings of food, flowers, or fish. Sacred stories, called myths, are passed down through oral tradition, full of heroes, shapeshifters, and creation tales that explain how each island came to be. The dead are not gone. They're still part of the family, watching, guiding, and needing respect. Though colonization and conversion tried to erase these traditions, Oceanic paganism still breathes in songs, tattoos, ceremonies, and modern spiritual revival.